Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Hi, and good morning, and welcome to the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. I am Reverend Rachel Helgeson. I'm the pastor at Northminster Presbyterian Church in Endwell, New York. If you're wondering where that is, Endwell is all's well but ends well is right across from the main Endwell High School, and there is the Marion Apartments is right behind us, and there is a little area behind that. So I have the pleasure of interviewing today someone who is the pastor at Nichols Presbyterian Church, but his roots are from Endwell at Northminster Presbyterian. And it's always a joy when I can see someone who has come from Northminster, who is flourishing and thriving and pastoring and shepherding in ways that are not only creative, but helping the broader community to think about how they can be helped. With no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Pastor George Budine. Welcome, George. So glad you're here with me.
It's a pleasure, and I'm glad you invited me. I'm happy to be here on behalf of Nichols Presbyterian Church. We are the farthest west church in Presbytery.
Are we? Are you really? I didn't realize
yes,
that.
we are. Yep. So,
wow. Okay. And you're in Tioga County, right? Nichols is in Tioga County?
We are in Tioga County, yes.
Okay. So one of the reasons I invited you was your church is doing this really cool thing called the Med Shed. Can you tell me a little bit more about what the Med Shed is?
Yeah. So the Med Shed is a mission project or outreach of the Nichols Presbyterian Church, and we'll get into how we got involved in it in a minute. But there was I guess I'll do it right now. We had there was a community group in Nichols that predominantly served senior citizens and other disadvantaged people. And they had a number of programs. Transportation was one, helping people get groceries was another, and a number of those kinds of things. But one of the things they had was a program where they would rent for like $1 a piece of medical equipment and walkers, wheelchairs, canes, all that kind of stuff. And they ended up having to disband. And the one of our parishioners happened to be at that place and looking for something for a piece of equipment for somebody, and became aware that they were disbanding, and brought it back to our session.
Oh, wow.
And so I think a little context needs to happen, because we're a church, and that's different from a philanthropic organization. And right, and right, and one of the challenges of being church, we offer worship, we offer spiritual guidance, we offer Christian education, but our focus can't be 100% inward. We have to have an outward focus as well. And I fall back to some of the simpler things. Paul's the architect of the church, but he gets his roots from this fellow named Jesus. And one of the things that Jesus talks about in Matthew 24 is the command that we feed the hungry, clothe the naked, care for the sick, and so it challenged my session, and I guess my session in turn challenged me back. Um, you know, what, where should we be looking? Not for something to do,
Right.
but for where God might be calling us. Because a really good idea is only a really good idea in the church world if that's what God is calling you to do.
Right.
Otherwise, a really good idea is going to end up in a bad way. So we had the church had a mission outreach. We had a tutoring program that we did with the local school, and we did it for I don't know, 3, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And we ended up suffering because of not because of the need. The need was great, and we had volunteers, which was it all worked out great. But we weren't getting the support that the program needed from the school district, and so that fell apart. And I said, "Well, we need to be looking for something else to do." And then this opportunity came along, and my session to a person, we need to do this for people who are um, less able and than we and have more challenges than we do. And I will tell you, I was probably the most hesitant one, not because I didn't think it was a good idea, not because I didn't think it was worthy, but because I really wanted to make sure that's what God was calling us to do.
Right.
And so the organization, I'll throw a plug to it. It was the Community Care Network of Nichols, CCNN. Um, they had this program. They had a small shed, and they were handing out this equipment. Like I said, you had to rent it for $1 with when you were done with it, you bring it back. And I don't know if you got your $1 back or not, but
Maybe it's for maintenance.
yeah, right. So at the time, I, I was renovating a nursing home, so I was around a lot of that equipment and people that used it and administered it.
So wait,
So
back
I
up.
said,
Just so people know, George
"Oh
is
yes,
talented. What else do you do, George?
that's right. I'm bivocational, right?
Yes.
I'm a supervisor in the commercial construction field.
Yeah. So you totally
So
understand that. Okay, so go on. Just
right. So I went up to one of the physical therapists one day and I said, walkers, wheelchairs, canes, commodes, it must have a name. I don't know what it is. It's medical stuff, right? And they says, George, it's durable medical equipment. I said, okay, fine. Now we got a name. So so that's where the term the med shed came from.
Oh, wow.
And so the when CCNN disbanded, we inherited the shed, and it was partially full of medical equipment. We brought it down to the Presbyterian church, set it up, and Session challenged me and said, as Christians, we believe that God freely gives to us, and it would be incumbent on us to freely give to others. So there is no rental agreement. There is no $1. It's yours. You can have it for as long as you want it. And if you're done with it and you know somebody else that needs it, please pass it on. And so I said, this was Sessions' idea. And I said, oh man, I wonder how this is going to work. And I said, well, what's the worst that happened? We give away a shed full of equipment to people that need it.
Right.
And we were probably in those days, and I think I got 2019, I'm sorry, 2018, I think we adopted the program from CCNN. And we were giving away maybe 2 or 3 pieces of equipment a week.
Oh, wow.
And we we didn't advertise on radio and TV, but we passed the information along to churches, civic organizations. So Nichols is close to Sayre, where Guthrie
Yep.
Robert Packer Hospital is. Um, so one of our parishioners was employed there. He got the information over to their discharge department. And it went around to some doctors. We also put the information in the hands of school nurses in the area.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And general practicing doctors. So anyway, all that information went out, and business began to pick up. And today, this is well, we're practically October 1st, and so far this year, we've given almost 950 pieces of equipment out.
Wow.
Absolutely fantastic. We
Wow.
are averaging 3 pieces of equipment a day.
A day?
A day, yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
It's and this is like it was like the story of the loaves and the fishes. The more we give away, the more we get back. We don't ask for anything. Some people donate. Most don't actually. We do have some help. Tag opportunities in the United Way have helped us once in a while, but very little. Um, it it happens like this. I met with a person who, excuse me, wanted me to do a funeral for her husband, and I did. And while we were having discussions, she says, "I've got all this equipment that walkers, 2 or 3 wheelchairs, and they had accumulated as he his needs got more and more." And I said, "Well, we have the med shed. If we'd be happy to, if you want to get rid of it, you can do whatever you want with it, but we'd be happy to take it. We'll come get it, all that kind of stuff." She said, "Yes, please." So I called one of the people who is one of the caretakers of the shed, and I said, this person I just met with. He says, "Well, that's really good because somebody called this morning asking for a wheelchair, and we don't have any. And I told them to come by tomorrow, and we would have one." And so
Wow.
that story repeats itself over and over and over again. And I don't I don't hold that out to the goodness of the shed or the people that run it. I hold that out to the providence of God.
Absolutely. That's amazing, George. If friends,
It
if you're
really,
just joining us, I'm speaking with George Budine. He is the pastor at Nichols Presbyterian Church. I just learned it is the farthest west in the Presbyterian Susquehanna Valley. It's Presbyterian Church, so it's the on our presbytery is pretty long, but I didn't realize Nichols was the point on that side of our particular presbytery, which is our regional area for Presbyterians. Um, George's roots come from Northminster, where I am the pastor. So it's a joy to be able to talk and interview him because since we're both pastoring, life sometimes pulls you into the call of what God is calling you to do. But um, George is talking a bit about the med shed and how it came about. And if you just were joining us, you've heard the story of the words that George used was providence, God's providence, about how someone was looking for a piece of equipment and it was exactly the piece that came in for the next day, and it keeps repeating over and over again. George, before we were talking a bit about how Northminster found out about this from your connections, and it's funny, like in our area, we didn't really know that you all are doing this, but from what I've been told, everyone knows in the Nichols region that, and as you were saying, like folks that have been connected through the Sayre Hospital and through the school districts and through other means for need that it's gotten a buzz in Tioga County. It's just interesting that it's not, how far is Nichols really from Endwell, Binghamton area? It's not that far, right?
No, maybe 30 miles.
Right. So we're
Like
not
from
talking,
no, no. It
um,
seems like it's a world away, but it's really not.
it's not, right?
No.
So it's interesting that like that it has all this known stuff right where you are, but it's still getting known in this other part of the area. I know Northminster um sometimes gets equipment, and one of our parishioners who's a friend of yours, dear lady in Northminster, Donna Cunningham, got wind of this of the med shed from you, and you connected her with one of your parishioners, because sometimes Northminster gets stuff, but we don't really have the same ministry, but we also didn't want it to just go to waste, and personally, it's been a witness to the Northminster folks who are a little bit bigger congregation to watch your congregation say, "Hey, this is what we can do," but it's because we're listening to what God's calling us to. And you were saying that. Um,
Mm.
I think one of the things that I wonder though is how could people support this ministry if they're just learning about this or they've known about it for a long time. I mean, I know your congregation has no expectations for that, but if you as a pastor could be like, here's the one thing I wish people knew, and here's a thing that I wish that people, if they felt so inclined, could help support, what would that be?
Here's something I'm very embarrassed to say, and that is that I don't even have the church's phone number committed to memory.
That's okay.
Um, Nichols Presbyterian Church. We do have a Facebook page that does not get a lot of use, but you can always message us there. That is checked quite often. Um, so it's Nichols, New York. Nichols is so small, it's not even big enough for a red light. There's no red light in the village. There's only stop signs. There is a red light in the town of Nichols at the Nichols exit by Tioga Downs. But yeah, we've had equipment, and we don't care where it goes. We've had someone say, "My mother lives in Rochester. Could I possibly get something?" Yes, you can. We do have a fair amount that goes to the western end of Broome County, the Appalachian area.
Okay.
There are a couple nurses that um, are involved in home physical therapy. They're quite frequent visitors to the med shed, things for their clients. So there is no real geographic bounds. Obviously, it needs to be convenient, but other
Right.
than that, there's no. Um, yeah, so yeah, contact the church. I'm sorry, I don't have that number in front of me.
That's okay. You can look on the web, Google it, friends.
Yes,
Nichols
yep,
Presbyterian Church, Pastor George Budine.
yep.
Um, George, can you tell me to, so we've talked a lot about the med shed, but um, I think a lot of times people focus on big churches and big
Right.
ministry. And can you talk to me a little bit more about Nichols? Because I know um, Nichols is this is a loaves and fishes ministry. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. So I don't even know what our official membership is. I think it's in the low 30s. Um, Attendance on Sunday can be 15 on a bad day, 25, 30 on a good day. Um, uh, we're I'm bivocational, so I can't do all the things that a full-time pastor could.
right.
But it's interesting because in the there's been a inverse of churches, and it used to be that we had churches and then we had small churches, and we defined that by 100 or more was a church, 100 or less was a small church. And today in the PCUSA and most other mainline denominations, it's exactly the inverse. So we have churches 100 or less, and then we have big churches. So the moniker has switched. And I remind my congregation and any other congregation that these 20, 30, 40, 50 person churches are now the backbones of our denominations. Not only Presbyterians, but most mainline churches.
Right.
And there's even the small numbers. And I mentioned loaves and fishes before, but it's the few loaves and fishes that fed many. And I still think that's the power of a small church. We all wish we were reaching more people, but that's the climate right now.
Well, and I would say too, a lot of times we forget that for Christians in the early church, it didn't start with a lot of people.
Right.
We all like to focus on the Beatitudes where Jesus is on the mount and a whole bunch of people show up. But who are the people that are with Jesus the whole time? There's like
Right.
12 of them, you know. And there's a beautiful film called Babette's Feast. It's about a small Swedish congregation, and these two sisters who are trying to keep it going. And this woman, Babette, stays with them. She's French. And her gift to them is, spoiler alert, friends, is a beautiful meal that they would never have been able to afford or do for themselves. But the whole point is that it's not about the number of people, it's about the intention. And as you said, like how are they listening to God's call in that? And I think that's what's amazing about your ministry at Nichols, is that it's not about, well, there's only so many people here.
Right.
We just are going to think in a mindset of scarcity. That's a word, it's a mindset of, okay, let's trust and see and be faithful. And it sounds like, George, that you're on the same page with them, and that you're shepherding in that way, which is just wonderful and beautiful. And friends, if you don't know the word bivocational, George, do you want to say a little bit to that, what bivocational means?
Right.
I mean, it's like a big.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, in the simplest terms, I have two jobs.
Right.
But I have like I say, I'm a construction supervisor. I build multi-million commercial properties and projects during the week, and then pastor a church sort of on the weekend. But as pastors know, Sunday morning is not our only time to be at work. Like we're doing this on Thursday night.
Right.
But anyway, right.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, right. But yeah, we're not live. Otherwise, I'd be late to church. It's and that's always my congregation is great. Understanding that those things happen, that I'm working out of town. Besides, I'm working in Rochester, have been for a few years. So there's some estrangement problems, but it's all good. It's all good.
So friends, no matter where you're coming from, what you're about, know that there are faith communities right around you that are doing ministry in new and exciting ways. George's congregation, Nichols Presbyterian Church, walked out on faith and answered a call to where they saw that there was a need for help. And if you live in Tioga County, or if you're in Broome County, know that the med shed is open to you. You can contact the Nichols Presbyterian Church and they will help you. If you have equipment that you are trying to figure out what to do with it, Nichols Presbyterian Church, more than welcome to receive it. Or if you just feel really moved from this, reach out to George or the congregation and just give them a chat. They're all super lovely humans. And they're doing some amazing things. just a reminder, in a world where we think big is better, I would argue that where two or three are gathered, Christ is amidst us, amongst us, and around us. And if we're faithful, that can go beyond our own bounds. I think the number that George said was he said over 900 up to this point, right? It's been
Yes,
of things. So
about
imagine
110 a month this year on
that's
average.
amazing.
It is amazing.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, and we can't give it out if they didn't come in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it really is.
So thank you, George, for chatting with me and sharing with this broader encounter community. Thank you, friends, for tuning in. Again, this is Reverend Rachel Helgeson talking with Pastor George Budine about the Medshed, Nichols Presbyterian Church, small churches and bivocational congregations. So thanks be to God for the work you're doing. And thanks be to God for those who have tuned in with us. You take care.
Before we go, here's another look inside the Greater Good Grocery, new to Binghamton's North Side. It's part of the outreach of the Broome County Council of Churches. Our Encounter team visited shortly after the store opened.